Hey, good evening. Good evening. Those of you who are joining me, I am Delilah Bartlett. I am so excited to come and share just a few minutes with you this evening. If you follow me, then you already had a heads up that I was coming here this evening and wanted to share with you some things that I think are going to be very practical to anyone listening. So, for those who are not aware or familiar with me, I am a leader and coach. I do many things in many places, but tonight I'm really coming to talk about the power of obedience and what it looks like when you need to make radical decisions in your life. I had no idea. I'm going to share a couple things, give you an opening, and maybe share about 4 points that I think are going to help you out. But I had no idea earlier this summer, late spring, when I started this series of the Summer of Surrender, Radical Obedience. I had no idea that I would myself be ending the summer in one of the most radical seasons of my life. And so I want to share with you kind of that decision making process, things that I considered, things that I did, in hopes that it helps you if you're thinking about career changes, building a business, relationship changes, whatever the transition may be or consideration to be obedient may be, that this helps you. And so, not only just personal, what I'm going to share over the next maybe 15 minutes, but also very, very practical. And I am watching my comments in case there are comments that come up throughout this time that we're together. I'm also going to launch comments in another space just so I don't miss them. But I'll also come back and answer questions after the video. Now, the recording for this video will only be in on YouTube. So hopefully you've subscribed. If not, youtube.com/at Delilah Bartlett is where you can go and subscribe and catch the replays and share them with coworkers and friends that you believe may need this type of insight. And so what makes somebody who has been in a career that's thriving for over, almost 3 decades, that's a long time, just decide to retire? And so I want to walk you through a little bit of that. And I have some notes and I'm going to refer to them because I want to make sure that I'm being very intentional with the time that you're investing here. And so the first thing that I would want to highlight is like these early whispers. Sometimes before you are given an invitation to change, shift, be radical in your obedience, there'll be an early warning or an early whisper. For me, as I was going into what I now know is retirement from the biggest airline in aviation history, I heard like early on, maybe it was April, during a time of grieving for a friend. I heard during that grieving, as I was actually crying about the grief of that friend, I heard that something was shifting with my job. I felt it on the inside, that something was shifting with my job. And let me use the word that I actually heard, not shifting, but something was dying with my job. And I'm like, that's a very interesting thought that I'm having. What does that mean? And I had no additional information or detail after that moment, but I did hear this early warning signal. So to you, that may look like, if you're a person of faith, that may look like you also hearing from God. If there's tension or you start to feel a level of discomfort that you've never had before, those could be early indications that something is changing before you're even presented with the invitation of the change. And so the early whisper. And so I would ask you to pay attention for early warnings, early impressions, and early patterns that will help you prepare yourself for what's about to come. And the reason that was really good for me, at least in this particular case, is that understanding that something was shifting or dying, I began to prepare my heart. Now, as you can imagine, if you've been in a relationship with anyone or anything for 28 years, there's a connection. There's an emotional connection. And what this heads up was able to do for me was prepare me for what turned out to be a decision to actually retire. The second thing that I would say is uh, make sure you have the right conversations at the table when looking to step into radical obedience, when looking to make what I believe this is one of the biggest decisions I've ever made in my life. And we're definitely going to get into some of the adventure language and roller coaster scenarios that I've been thinking and talking about. But having the right conversations at the table. I did not make this decision in a bubble. Of course, I consulted with my husband. That's not even really consultation. That's us partnering together because we're making the decision together. But we talk to other people in business. We talk to other people in ministry. We talk to our financial advisor, right? We talk to the key people that we knew had different perspectives of our lives that could give us sound advice. And one of the very interesting things about that advice is you take the advice in, you take the wisdom in, or at least this is what we did. And we had to recognize the human wisdom and divine direction. They don't always agree. Still need to know. Like for my financial advisor, I need to know, well, this isn't a part of our plan. We still need X amount of money if you're planning to retire at Y age and live for this long. I need to know that, and I need to hear that. But if I am hearing also that it is still time to go, then I am fully informed. I am more informed as I'm making the divine decision. And so you want to make sure you have the right people at the table. So seek counsel among different perspectives and voices. Do it wisely. Don't just ask any and everybody. I tend to try not to ask people for advice if they've not walked the walk or they are not subject matter experts in the area. I don't ask everybody everything. You need to have fruit that this is a area of gifting for you in order for me to ask you about how that should look in my life. But bring these people in. Balance the wisdom of others with what God is saying. This is about, and welcome to the conversation. This is about stepping out in radical obedience. And I'm using the recent decision in my life to retire from the biggest airline in aviation history after 28 years to really show and walk out like, how do you do that? Because I'm sure there are a lot of people like, this came out of nowhere, like out of the blue. She's gone, she's leaving, and people will do the same for you. Like, it doesn't make sense. They'll, some people will tell you it doesn't make sense, but it doesn't always make sense. God says that he'll use the foolish things to confound the wise. And so second thing, bring people to the table. First thing was kind of listen for those early indications. The third thing was this confirmation in the seasons. So interesting. The day my husband and I started to think about, do we stay? Do we stay here at the organization that's been good to us and we've been good to it? Or do we retire and like try to do something new? That happened on a Thursday. The very first conversation happened on a Thursday. Friday morning, we got a call. And for some of you who know a little bit about us, this is, I've not shared anything on social media about this yet, but I guess I'm going to share it here. Friday morning, we got a call from our oldest son. We hadn't heard from him, hadn't talked to him in maybe about 8 months. And some of you know that journey. And we got a call from him Friday morning. That resulted in him coming home. And I was just so overwhelmed with him coming home. He became the highlight of that entire week. Like, yeah, we're thinking about retiring, but my son is coming home. And then the other thing that's interesting around this season, I've built this amazing career over 28 years without a 4-year degree. People will tell you it can't happen, but I love being a proof point that things are possible. Things are possible. You may not check all the boxes, but things are possible for you to still achieve the level of success that you're endeavoring to achieve. I've done that over 28 years, no 4-year degree. Many jobs saying you need a bachelor's, you need a bachelor's, you need a bachelor's. But because of the results that I'd shown, because of the reputation and brand that I have within the organization, nobody looked for the degree because she delivers results. And so What's very interesting in this season is that I completed my entire journey with the organization, 28 years without a 4-year degree. And I retired officially on the 1st of August. And I will be graduating with my first 4-year degree this coming Saturday on the 9th. I didn't take that for happenstance. Like, so there's seasons, there's things that'll be happening in as you're making the decision, which may seem radical, as you're obeying God and the unction that is putting inside of you. There should be some type of confirmation. I like to call them God kisses, some type of confirmation along the way that, oh, okay, this is the right type of decision. I want to also take you back before you've actually made the decision. One of the things that helped me make the decision, this is really critical. One of the things that helped me make the decision, and then I'm going to pause for some questions and check the comments. So if you have questions, make sure you're putting them in. But one of the biggest things that afforded me to be able to make the decision was going to God in prayer and asking God, where in the Bible am I being supported with the decision to leave? Because I remember the early unction that something here is dying. And I also heard a warning, like, don't try to resuscitate it. If it's time to go, it's time to go. And the Lord took me to 2 passages in the story, the account of Abram. One was when he first called Abram out. It's like, leave from where you are, leave from what you're familiar with, and go to a place that I will show you. Because I'm leaving, I've retired, I have no clear path to what I'm about to do next. I'm just being open to what I'm hearing to say, okay, now I'm going to do these things. But go to a place, the Lord told me, go to a place that I will show you, as he told Abram. So I'm going to a place he will show me. Not that I've been shown, I don't know. And people are like, you left how much money to just step out and be shown, not know, but be shown something? Yes, because I have an account in the scripture where somebody's done it before, and I believe this is what God is telling me as well. He also told me at that time, though, as well, that the second account was when Abram and Lot were splitting, and Abram could pick either way he wanted to go. And what the Lord said there was, no matter where you choose, I'm going to be with you. So it's really all good. So as you're determining the types of decisions that you need to make, if you're being invited to a radical obedience and you're a little afraid, you're not really sure, as you're praying, if you're a person of faith like I am, as you're praying and you're asking God, then, hey, Lord, show me in the scripture where there's been an instance similar to what I'm going through that can help me make this decision. Right. And so those scriptures, I anchored myself in those scriptures to say, I'm not the first person he told to go that didn't have clear instruction on where they were going. And no matter if I choose to stay or go, he is with me. And so before I go into the last point that I'm hoping you'll take away, and as you're thinking about, man, I feel like there's something inside of me where I'm being asked to do something and I'm not really sure, what should I be considering? I'm going to share one more point with you, but I do want to come over and see if there are any comments so far in the chat. And so I'm checking the chat to see if there are any comments. Want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. All right. I see some hearts, but I don't see any comments. So the last point that I will make, and I'll leave this up again. The replay will be on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook or you're watching on LinkedIn, thank you for being here live. But this replay is going to only be on YouTube. So make sure that you're going to DelilahBartlett.com. I'm sorry, no, youtube.com/Delilah Bartlett to see the replay and to share it with friends, because I understand that when you are asked to do something that feels so comfortable that you may be afraid. And I understand that people aren't talking to you about how to step out in radical obedience and the things to consider to make sound decisions. I understand people aren't doing that. And so I am coming to be 100% exposed and transparent so that you can glean from this amazing radical step of obedience and my radical adventure in order to make decisions that are just going to exceedingly abundantly blow your mind in your own life. And so the last thing that I would share about this decision making process and this journey is that, let me do a brief recap here. One, I shared that there will be a heads up unction, that I had a heads up unction. This to me actually came with some words for you. It may be an early whisper, that you may have some early stirrings or impressions or patterns that something is shifting and changing, preparing you for this radical step of obedience. Number two, I said, talk to people around you who are experts in their field, as to make sound, informed decisions. Even when you're making radical decisions, you can make them informed. And so talk to people that are really good in their area of gifting. The third thing I shared was anchor it in scripture. If you're a person, especially if you're a person of faith, you have absolutely no business doing anything without like talking to God about it and anchoring it in scripture. And I share with you the passages that God talked to me about this time as I was retiring. So you should anchor them in scripture. And then I shared with you about the confirmations of seasons. There should be something that says, for instance, I know seasons here in Texas because in the late winter, I can start to see pollen on my car. I know things are shifting. I know seasons when you're in the Northeast and you're in fall, the foliage starts to change colors. There should be evidence of the season that's changing. And so for me, that was my son coming home. For me, that was graduating from college after I had a 28-year career with no 4-year degree. There was signs that, oh, you've entered into something different. And so you should have seasons. And now I just want to share with you, I call it the leap, the adventure, and the ride. I've been using the word adventure. People are like, oh, so how are things going? We are on an adventure. And the reason I use the word adventure, and this is probably going to be true for you and your decision, is because an adventure is something that is both really exciting, but scary at the same time. Faith doesn't always feel comfortable. Stepping out in radical obedience doesn't feel comfortable. Leaving a career after 28 years and not having everything laid out is not the most comfortable thing to do. But my comfort is not what truly matters. My obedience in this season is what matters. And so I use adventure, and feel free to take it and use it for yourself as well as you're stepping into radical spaces. But adventure is something that's both very exciting, but a little scary. And I also use this analogy of a roller coaster. This is so amazing. So what was shared to me in my mind as we were thinking about this decision, if you think about a roller coaster and the biggest roller coaster you've ever seen in the entire world, you may have seen some on YouTube or TikTok, or you may have ridden these. Raging Bull used to be my thing at Six Flags Great America. And you think about the climb to the giant drop, because there's smaller drops, but to the giant drop. And that climb is like slow and steady. And there's this anticipation that builds. So as you're looking to make this decision, it's going to feel like, I'm trying very hard not to use the word anxious. There's going to be this anticipation that is building in you that's like, should I, shouldn't I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I want to. And you're talking to the people and they're weighing in, and all this anticipation is still building as you're rising to the big drop. And then you make the decision. Then I made the decision. And we went over the big drop and down the big drop, right? And when you're in that big drop, if you're a rider like me, your hands are up, you're yelling, you're screaming, you're having an amazing time. It's a little bit scary, but it's still exciting at the same time, right? You're on this adventure and you have no idea when the next turn or drop or whatever is going to introduce itself, but you are along for the ride. Why? Because there's been this divine design that has already designed your highs, lows, turns, swivels throughout this journey. And you're trusting the process, and you're trusting the one that designed the ride. And so I'm hoping that me sharing briefly the characteristics of how I left a 28-year career making, and I think I put in a chat, like making change your life and legacy type of money without a solid plan of what's coming next, why I would do that. And why, if you're being asked, invited to do something radical inside of yourself and change, how you can consider the things that you can consider and do while you're in that decision-making process. I'm so hopeful that this has helped you. I'm so hopeful that this has helped you. I'm going back over here looking for comments or questions. I don't see them. Should they come later, I'll watch this video and I'll answer them. Should you want to DM me because you don't want to ask me out here in front of everybody, like that's fine too. Because I just endeavor to help. It was not easy. It was not simple. But because I am a person that has now stepped out in this level of radical obedience, please consider me an asset and someone that you can lean on should you need help processing your next big thing. With that, guys, I'm retired. I woke up this morning, had some coffee, figuring out life, and just walking it out. I know it's going to be amazing. I am in the big drop with my hands up, having an amazing time, and I'm so excited about where God is taking me throughout this amazing journey. Thank you guys so much for joining. Again, DelilahBartlett.com for all the resources and things that I do, bios. If you need all that stuff and you really don't know me, go rock out over there. Thank you for joining live. Those I've been watching, the people that are watching, those who have been joining live. Thank you for joining live. Know that, again, the recording after this evening will be only on YouTube. You should definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's over 400 videos there for over 9 years. There's many great things that I've shared about career, faith, and leadership in that space. But there's so much more to come. I feel it. And I'm glad you're along for the ride. All right. I'm here as an asset and as a resource. So feel free to reach out. Until then, let's just go ahead and get big. Talk to you guys later.